I would like to talk about the food revolution. What I'd really like to talk about is what we don't talk about when we talk about the food revolution. And let me just say that I am a big supporter of the food revolution, whether we're talking about something organized and international, like Jamie Oliver's food revolution, or we're talking about something a little more vaguely revolutionary, like you joining your local CSA or your local CSF now, or buying humanely raised organic chickens at the farmer's market, or even about starting a compost pile. But as much as I embrace the food revolution, I really don't embrace the term foodie. The term makes me uncomfortable. And I don't say that to be insulting to anybody. I say it in the sense that I grew up in a steel town suburb south of Buffalo called Lackawanna. And for those of you for whom Buffalo is the punchline to any number of jokes, all you need to know about my hometown is that in Buffalo, Lackawanna is the punchline. I was raised by parents, both of whom were the children of Polish immigrants. They were both products of the Great Depression. And they didn't call it food insecurity in the 1920s and 1930s when my parents were children. But I bet that when my father was standing in bread lines, that he felt insecure. And I'm pretty sure that his mother, my grandmother, who was a farm worker, not a migrant farm worker, but a farm worker, who stole turnips to feed her family during that time, my father and his 5 siblings, I'm pretty sure that she felt insecure too. Which is to say that to me, food is a weighty and important word, not subject to diminution. To me, food is a pretty primal thing. When I was growing up, a lot of the food we ate came right out of the dirt. My dad, like a lot of our neighbors, had a garden. And as everybody who gardens, which does not include me, but everybody who gardens knows that a garden takes a lot of work. It takes work to plant, it takes work to weed, it takes work to grow. And it also takes work to get those vegetables out of the ground and clean them up so that you can cook them and eat them. My father and my brothers didn't hunt, but a lot of our neighbors did. Not for sport, mostly, but mostly because if you shot a deer in the fall, then your family would have meat over the winter. And if you were feeling generous, you might share some of that meat with your neighbors. My dad and my brothers did fish, and while today I would be utterly and completely thrilled to have fresh caught fish for dinner, I can tell you that when I was growing up, cleaning a fresh caught fish was really not my idea of a gourmet meal. But whether the food comes from the ground or the grocery store or from some communal deer, food in my family and in my neighborhood was not a thing to be wasted. It was not a thing to be ignored. It was not something we pushed to the back of the refrigerator and left to rot. Food required care. Food demanded attention. And food commanded respect. So, as you might imagine, if the food commanded respect, the person who cooked the food and the cooking itself was a really, really big deal. And so it is for me. I really love to cook. I love everything about cooking. All of the effort and all of the work of cooking. I love looking for recipes. I love reading cookbooks. I love wandering farmers markets. I even love grocery shopping. I love the physical work of cooking. I love the chopping and the dicing. I love the rhythm of my knife on a cutting board. I love the way a good, sharp boning knife cuts through a joint of a chicken. And I especially love the way my old gas stove makes a big woof noise. I hope I didn't spit in anybody up here. When I turn it on. It's a 1932 Magic Chef, and I am planning to cook dinner for 35 people on it for Thanksgiving. Works like a charm. I love the alchemy of cooking. I love the magic, the gold into lead of the lead into gold of cooking. When I am cooking, I feel like I'm doing magic. But the other thing I feel when I'm cooking is I feel a connection. Not just to the people I'm cooking for, my family or whoever I'm making, whatever I'm making for that day, but I feel a connection to my mom and to my community. I feel a connection to my grandmother, who may not have been able to read in English, but who allegedly made the best borscht that anyone ever ate. Here's the thing. Cooking takes effort. And I gotta tell you, I really can't cook for people I don't like. Seriously. I love cooking for my family. I love cooking for my friends. And anybody who knows me knows that when I hear somebody's news, whether it's good news or bad news, I reach for the stove before I reach for the phone. Which brings me back to the food revolution. I know that we're not supposed to say things like food is love, and I totally understand why. I understand that it leads to overeating and obesity and a lack of mature coping skills and bad body image. And I'm totally okay with that. I totally get that, and I think that's absolutely true. But what I wonder is why, in the food revolution, we're not talking about why cooking is love. Let me just stop here for a second and say that I am an old school feminist from the 1970s. I'm of the women need men like fish need bicycles school of thought, although all of us have moved on, myself included. But as we've moved on, surely we've come to the place where we know that not just women can cook for their families, and my 17-year-old son would be the first person to tell you that. Cooking isn't just about nutrition. Cooking isn't just about whole grains and leafy green vegetables and lots of dietary fiber and fruit being as satisfying to your sweet tooth as an Oreo. Because at least in my case, I have to tell you, it just isn't. But if I cut up that fruit for you and I drizzle over a simple syrup that I made with lemon zest and a little mint, and I serve that to you with a cup of tea and a cookie that I baked, I'm satisfying something else besides your nutritional needs. I'm satisfying your soul. I'm telling you that you are worth the effort. I'm telling you that you matter enough to me to do the chopping and the baking and the dicing and the mincing. Because, you know, however many billions of years ago that humans discovered fire and figured out how to cook mastodon meat over it. Being included in that fire circle was a privilege. Eating mastodon meat with your tribe meant that you weren't going to starve to death at night. But it also meant that you weren't alone out there. It meant that you were part of something. It meant that you mattered. And that's what cooking is. And that's why we do it. Cooking is love. Cooking is about community. It's about connection. It's about tradition and belonging. That's my revolution. That's my food revolution.